Frid och shalom älskade vänner. Här kommer en uppdatering nu på morgonen den 13/10. Och idag är det ju då den här Global Jihad och Elvor kommer ta upp det på podden senare. Ja, det trappas upp där nere i Mellanöstern. Jag var uppe till ganska sent och såg att de vräkte ner bomber där nere. Och då har vi fått reda på vad som händer. Det kan vi se nu i den här videon som kommer här då. Och så tar vi också upp en liten video som visar vad som händer i Ukraina precis efter Israel här då. För det pågår ju saker där också. Man har alltså börjat använda tanks igen och kört trupper dit. Så det är en ny offensiv från Ryssland nu istället. Ja, vilka nyheter ska man tro på? Ja, det är ganska förvirrat just nu. I alla fall när det gäller Ukraina och det. Och det Israel väntar på att gå in, det är ju förstås att så många av civilbefolkningen som möjligt ska bege sig ut. Sen smäller det nog rätt bra där nere för att man har bestämt sig helt enkelt för att plocka bort Hamas en gång för alla. För annars tror inte jag det kommer att bli någon fred överhuvudtaget, en chans till. Ja, vi tittar på videon, den kommer här nu då.
Especially fighter jets started hitting multiple locations simultaneously. Terrorists were left bewildered about where to escape because evading powerful bombs is hardly possible. Furthermore, with Syria entering the conflict, things got complicated. Israel decided to address the issue at its core and rendered Syrian airfields unusable. The Russian air defense systems in the region couldn't do anything. A major Israeli ground offensive is about to commence. If you are ready, let's quickly review today's news using maps and real images. In the day's first news, Israel got an early start. Following a series of attacks from Syrian territories in the past 2 days, they initiated an operation because engaging in warfare on multiple fronts simultaneously is extremely draining for a nation. Israel is trying to reduce some of these fronts. Today, the Syrian issue was attempted to be resolved from its root, just as it was in the past. Israel has prioritized its air force for many years and has always sought to maintain its power by neutralizing the air forces of its adversaries. In the morning incident, aircraft under the command of the Israeli Air Force attacked Syrian airfields. This is a very challenging task because one of the airfields they attacked is located in the northernmost corner of Syria. They had to pass through many air defense systems to reach there. Syria possesses advanced systems like the new generation S-300. Some of these have been specifically developed and modernized for hunting aircraft. Israel likely used F-35 aircraft to avoid detection by these air defense systems, since it is somewhat difficult for other non-stealth aircraft to avoid Russian radars. Moreover, short-range air defense systems are present within the airfields. The aircraft shouldn't get too close when dropping bombs. The F-35 aircraft probably approached at a distance of about 50 kilometers and released precision-guided bombs, destroying critical points, including the airbase's runways. From now on, no aircraft will be able to take off from these airfields for a considerable period. Israel has successfully sidelined the Syrian and Russian air forces. The inability of the Russian air defense systems to protect the airfields is a separate issue. We will see what happens next. Our second report focuses on the events in the Gaza Strip, where today's main incidents took place. Israeli aircraft shifted their attention to Gaza and began destroying Hamas targets one after another. In recent days, Hamas had been firing numerous rockets from between buildings and concealing rocket launchers among them. These buildings were identified by drones, leading to a coordinated attack today. The initial targets were Gaza's coastal areas. Israeli warships began by targeting Hamas boats attempting to leave the port. Hamas, in response, tried to attack Israeli ships, even seizing some of the boats at the port. However, the weather was clear, and the water was very transparent. Boats attempting to approach an Israeli ship from kilometers away were easily visible, leading to unsuccessful attacks on Hamas's part. Subsequently, Israeli ships started targeting the coastal objectives with missiles and artillery fire. There are many terrorists along the coast. Hamas had gathered at the shoreline as they wanted to avoid getting too close to Israeli cities when launching their attacks. Today, both the ships and the Air Force particularly focused on these areas. Initially, Israeli ships inspected homes overlooking the shore, and buildings near the port were struck. It was discovered that one of the Hamas brigade leaders was in one of these buildings. The leader of the Al-Aqsa brigades was located and eliminated when the building was targeted by aircraft, thus removing a key figure from the organization. Following the attacks on the coastal areas, Hamas made a major move to launch a counterattack. They had set up a significant number of missiles in a park in the Beit Lahia region of the city. From there, they launched attacks on the Israeli cities of Ashkelon and Ashdod. While the Iron Dome system again fulfilled its role by intercepting numerous missiles, the use of hundreds of missiles in the attack caused some disruption. Subsequently, Israel targeted the point from which the attacks originated. 4 hours after the attack, the Air Force scattered the area around the park. Moving and transporting missile systems is a challenging task, so this method resulted in the destruction of some of Hamas's heavy weapons. Our third report is from the city of Sderot. After Hamas focused on this city, Israel made the decision to evacuate the city and turn it into a massive headquarters. Currently, the area's residents are being evacuated, and Israeli soldiers are beginning to enter the city. Tanks and heavy weapons will likely be used as a central point for a ground assault once they arrive in the area. We mentioned yesterday that the walls near Gaza were removed and the pits were filled. Sderot is being prepared to serve as a military base. After the elimination of Hamas targets in the city, the operation will move on to its next phase. Our fourth report takes us to the middle of Gaza. After Israel fortified its northern cities like Sderot, Hamas redirected its focus slightly southward. They attempted to breach the border by creating openings in the middle walls. For example, Kisufim village was among the affected areas today due to these attacks. Terrorists crossed from one side of the border to the other through a dense forest area next to the wall. Later, they launched a direct attack on Kisufim village. What they didn't know is that Israel had strengthened the villages in the Gaza Strip over the past 2 days. The chaos in the region has been somewhat reduced, and the military has begun to regain control. At the end of the conflict, the terrorists were eliminated without even getting close to the village. Our fifth report is from the Lebanon border. After yesterday's attacks by Israel, Hezbollah faced significant issues today. Yesterday, terrorists came to the border and launched over 1,000 rockets at Israel. Israel responded by identifying and targeting the areas from which the rockets were launched. Today, the border was quieter compared to the day before because it became apparent that Hezbollah's lines had been disrupted by airstrikes. They are currently trying to regroup and find more missiles. The Iranian foreign minister is even scheduled to visit Lebanon soon to assess the situation. We already know that Iran supports Hezbollah. During this visit, they may provide further support, such as new unmanned vehicles and missiles, making the situation more complicated. In the current situation, if Israel wants to succeed, they need to strike the terrorist groups again before they can regroup, and this is already happening. Next, in our sixth report, we focus on the seas. Following the deployment of US Navy ships near the Lebanon border, new warships are arriving in the region. The UK announced that it is sending 2 warships and 1 surveillance aircraft to support Israel. Warships can do little more than stay in the Mediterranean, but the surveillance aircraft sent can significantly aid Israel. By taking high-altitude photographs of the region or monitoring certain areas from a great height, they will be able to locate targets more easily. Currently, there is a US aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean, with a second one on the way. There are dozens of warships, and these ships are loaded with Tomahawk cruise missiles. So, if needed, Israel can strike distant locations like Syria. Considering the country is under attack from all 4 sides, this might be necessary. The arrival of British warships has increased the level of support even further, imposing a comprehensive blockade on the terrorists from both the air and the ground. Lastly, news of full support from the United States has come to Israel. Some of the equipment to be sent to Ukraine is urgently needed, so it is being redirected directly to Israel. We're talking about billions of dollars, so it's a substantial amount of assistance. This sum can sustain Israel's expenditures for a while. Additionally, the legendary A-10 aircraft from the United States has been brought closer to Israel's territory, anticipating that they might be needed. They have been positioned at the United Arab Emirates Air Base for now. If necessary, they can fly directly to Israel to participate in the conflict. The A-10s are effective at striking ground targets, so they may be used in the near future to target Hamas objectives. Let's see if Israel decides to use them. For now, we've reached the end of our video. We will continue to follow
of this one will yet again be around Avdiivka, as Russian forces continue their offensive in the direction of the city, where they have 4 main areas of attack, where the main fighting is focused around, so we will be going over them one by one. Starting out, before going to the fighting by Avdiivka, there's been some armored assaults by the Russian forces in the direction of the area between Prisky, Pervomaiska and Novelska. The Russian forces are generally starting to use their armored forces in between the direction of Donetsk and all the way up to the northern direction of Kupiansk. We've seen many videos of the Russian convoys moving to the front, battles between the Russian forces and the Ukrainian forces, and some Russian armored losses. This is at a scale we haven't seen since the start of the war. The Russian forces have not used the armored vehicles to this point since the initial offensives and invasions leading to Kiev, Mykolaiv and so on. So